how do I keep this thing going, but I get out more? How can I step away without this whole thing falling apart? And I really did. I mean, I went to everybody that we worked with. I went openly to all of them. I was like, listen, I would very much like to sell this to all of you. I'd love for you guys as a group to come together. And I talked to all of them, and I talked to them in groups, and I tried to figure it out, and I tried to think of different things, and it eventually just didn't work. This week's episode of Pickles and Pasta with Steph and Jay. Hey, Steph.
Hi, Jay.
How you doing?
I'm fantastic.
Good. Okay. I think it's podcast time now, so we're going to get right into it. And this week's episode is actually it's an interesting one as I was thinking about it. We're calling this one Creatives Who Pivoted Successfully. I think it's interesting. Like, you hear pivot mentioned all the time, right? Like, everybody used to think about that before, but like everyone's like pivoting, like, and they pivoted and they had this great startup and they pivoted and all these sort of things and career pivots and stuff like that. And, I think it's an interesting time. I don't know if you have any thoughts before we like kind of get into stuff, but like about like that whole general idea of pivoting, like before we even get into the like nuts and bolts of it.
I think just a general thought is that I think we're always pivoting in a way at some point in our lives, in our careers, because you're evolving and you're changing. So I think we are naturally realigning how we look at things, and in a way that could be considered a pivot. Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, right? Like, it's like we're talking about these pivots, but are they pivots? Is it evolution? Like kind of what is it? So, for me, I think a pivot is a pivot. Like, it's an actual change. Like, it's there. Of course, look, as humans, you kind of are what you are, right? Like, you're not going to wake up one morning and you're 6'5" and you wake up the next morning and you're 5'3". Like, you are what you are. You learn, you grow, you habits, stuff like that. But, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that you always are. But to me, like a pivot, like a business pivot, is really a change. And I think there's still a little bit of maybe what you started always in there. But a pivot is like a whole other business. Like, it's a real, like, you couldn't recognize them at all as the same, which I think that's different than evolution.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on what I think a pivot is.
Okay.
So we'll get into it.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. That's fair enough. I appreciate the heads up that you're going to disagree. So okay. So we'll start with you. Like, tell me an example of something where you consider you've pivoted. Like in your career.
It's very recent. You know, my recent pivot from being a fashion brand founder and CEO and just diving into this whole have some fun today thing since 2014 till today, 2026, where I feel I have pivoted in my role. And yes, I am still the CEO, founder of Have Some Fun Today. It's still a thing. But I have slowly, over the course of several years, made a pivot for how I've evolved my identity, basically, from being like just solely focused on Have Some Fun Today, manufacturing new bags, designing new bags and t-shirts and sweatshirts, and being on top of fashion shoots and, you know, just go with this fashion identity. And I'm not exactly sure when it started, but I think I have just changed and evolved. And with me really looking at my future, my next 10 years, I just saw myself in a different way, and I didn't feel as aligned doing all of those things as
Sure.
I used to. So
Sure.
that's kind of the beginning of my pivot.
Okay.
I don't want to keep on going here. We can kind of interject, but that's kind of where I'm going to go with what I
So you're
feel.
saying from being like this designer CEO to more of an artist. Like, I mean, you always were an artist, right? Like at your core, you're an
Yeah.
artist. You're an artist as
Yeah.
designer. You're an artist when you're interior designer. But like now, you're really shifting. Like your day to day is towards art. Everything you do evolving mainly is around art. Still have some fun today. We're still working on that. We're still doing things there. It's still good, and we're excited and really
Yeah.
grateful for that business for sure. But you wake up in the morning, your thinking is more along like, okay, am I painting today? Research today? Am I going to look at an exhibit today? Am I going to read today? It's about art. It's all about what art are you physically working on now? Is it some new idea? Is it some new series that you're working on? Is it a commission that someone, like, hey, we want you to work on this project for us, whatever. It's revolving around the art as opposed to, how many SKUs we have. I mean, it's not that we don't do that, but we've like compartmentalized that. Like, okay, we have to focus on that of, okay, what's the marketing for this month? What are the sales? What are this, done, put it into the machine. Luckily, we've been able to find great people to help us with a lot of that stuff. We do that. It's not all day, every day. It still comes up, right? Like you go and you walk down the street and you see somebody wearing an outfit or you see something in a store and you're like, oh, that inspires you. But your day to day really, and I think that's a legitimate pivot. I think that's a
Yeah.
fair pivot. Yeah.
I mean, I would say that Have Some Fun Today is contained within this new identity that I'm encompassing now again. I think for a while I kind of put that on the shelf.
The art.
I really had yeah, I had to fully invest myself in learning how to run a global fashion brand, basically. I mean, I was competing with those people, so I had to really learn how to do that. And that really was a 24/7. I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was getting myself
Yeah.
into, but so
Yeah.
I think after 10 years of that, I think I was slowly kind of thinking, I don't know how this feels anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
so I had to kind of shift. And that was the part that's the pivot. The pivot to me is the identity shift. And that's something I think that really deserves a
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, thinking about it and listening to you, like, I remember like when we reconnected and we were talking every day and stuff, but we were living together yet. You talked about your art, but every day was about have some fun today. I mean, every day was
Yeah.
about that. And then when I came by and then moved in together, and I saw your art and I was like, oh, you should do more art. Not that it had anything to do with it. I'm not taking credit for anything. But I was like, that's when I started to see this whole other part. Like I knew that part, but I didn't know if you would have asked me like, what do I do? I would say, oh, you have this brand, have some fun today. Oh, and
Right.
you're an artist. Like, wait a minute. Oh, and you're an
Yeah.
artist. Like, it wouldn't have been like
Right.
that. Whereas, and you always hear me speaking about it, like when people say, oh, what does she do? And I say, well, she's an artist and a designer. Like I'm leading with artist really. And I was like, but her art is incorporated in everything. When she was an interior designer, that's art, that's a type of artist. Her brand, she's a type of artist. And this is art, like painting artist. So it's interesting. I mean, I think, and then with COVID, I think, when times changed, everything was different. And then you had a little bit more time, I think, to kind of do that. I think that was when it started to kind of like the juices started to flow, I think, right? They started to little by little.
Yeah, I would say that COVID definitely was a time when I picked up a paintbrush for the first time in a really long time. And I have to say you were someone who was like encouraging me to paint again, because I hadn't really painted in a really long time. A lot of artists go through phases where they don't paint,
Sure. Yeah.
It's very common. And I think like for me, like the part that was hard for me was this identity shift. I really I felt very perplexed of how I was going to navigate it. It was not something that was immediate. It took a lot of talking and planning and therapy and getting myself to realize that it's going to be okay if I'm not the have some fun today solely. That's all I do.
Right.
I really thought I was going to be letting people down. That was like one of the parts of it. So I think there's a lot of different things, and grief comes into play because you were this person that you knew people could identify you as. And I think a little bit of the term of success comes into it because people would look at what I was doing and they could tangibly see, my website and people on the streets carrying my stuff. I still do. I get messages from people who travel like all over the country. I'll get a picture of one of my products in a Ritz-Carlton or a Four Seasons. And it's like this visible identity that I had. And when you kind of let that go to the side, and that's like maybe a part of you, but not all of you, there's definitely some internal stuff you have to work through.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, my pivots are real, much greater, not better, but different, much bigger shifts from mine. And, that certainly was something that went into my mind a lot, in making changes. I mean, like from the tennis and all the stuff that I did. And, nightlife stuff was involved in various different things, which kind of continued on for a while in the whole, in the entertainment stuff world that I do. I was known in that world. I mean, I was very well known in that world. And, there's hardly anybody in the tennis world that didn't know who I was. Everybody in the actual business tennis world, everybody on the planet knew who I was. And people that were fans, not of mine, but fans of like my clients, they absolutely knew who I was. And so I was known as that. I mean, and I know, I think I've jokingly, I've told you this story, which still to this day cracks me up. I mean, a guy who I'm still very gratefully in touch with, and, I consider him a friend. Obviously I don't see him all the time as much, but one of my clients, the name of the company was Jay's Custom Stringing, and he thought that custom was my last name. And we had a contract. I mean, we had a legitimate contract that I signed that had my name on it. And he would always, every time he saw me, he would say, Jay Custom. And I was like, I just thought that was cute. Like, I thought it was like, he's just calling me Jay Custom, like, Jay Custom. And I was like, he's like, what's this Schweid thing? And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's my name. He's like, no, Custom is your last name. I was like, no, it's really not. So, God bless him. I mean, he was as high as 4 in the world. So he's obviously an incredibly talented player, and he's a very smart guy. He's not like he's a stupid guy. He's just, English is not his first language. And he just, the name of the company was that. So he thought it was, it's like John Smith Stringing. So I was Jay Custom Stringing. So,
that's cute.
So, it was a big thing to be like, that was my identity. Like, there's no question that was my identity. Like, and I purposely, started Effluence under a different name. One, because I didn't want that. I didn't want the business to revolve around me. Like, it's fine that it's my business. It's fine. It's my idea and all that sort of stuff. But I didn't want to be tied to it that way. I wanted to be able to like step out and the business still continue. Like, if that, if and when that time comes, and not be like, well, if Jay's not here, there's nothing, there's just nothing. I mean, when I sold the business to my, first hire, I changed the name the second we transferred over. Like, so, I mean, he's eliminated, my name from all of it. So, which, God bless him, it's his business. Like, he can do whatever the hell he wants. But if the name would have been something else, he probably wouldn't have done that. Because there would have been no logic to that.
Right.
It's a big thing to do that. And from on the identity point, like, it was 100% that was my identity. And granted, there are people that I know now, I've seen that, like, people seen me. I remember a couple different people, different times in clubs, and like, hey, Effluence. It's like that's not my name. Like, and then but they knew Effluence. They didn't know what Effluence did, but they just knew it from whatever. I guess I sent them an email or they heard about it or something. And of course, they knew my name was Jay, but it was just kind of so. There's something about like when you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business, it's a little weird, right? Like your identity is your brand is your identity. You are, who are you? Are you that? Like it's so. I think it's interesting, and I think that makes the pivoting that much more difficult, right? Like
Yeah, I
things.
mean, like all I was going to say is that it adds to the amount of time it takes to pivot
Hmm,
because you're working through, well, how do I do this? Like all these people I'm going to let down, all these people I'm going to disappoint. People are going to look at me that I've failed at this
yeah,
endeavor. And yet there is no failure.
yeah,
It is simply a decision that just doesn't feel right anymore. How long did
yeah.
it take you to actually make the decision to sell your business and to pivot to entertainment?
Um, I mean, well, look, I remember I was doing events, so I still kind of felt I was already had my toe in entertainment, and I was dealing with a lot of actors and producers and musicians, but just because I met them and knew them, and they asked me for advice and stuff like that. So I didn't feel like I was totally out of left field, like I wasn't going into the plumbing business or something like that. Um,
Right.
I mean, I knew that I wanted to get out, you know, for probably a couple of years before it finally happened. I'd say at least roughly. I kind of was ready, like I'm getting tired, and this is tiring now. Like I started getting tired, and then of course, like how do I do this? What am I going to do? And but I at first I really worked for a while, a long while. I'd say probably at least a year. Uh, it felt even longer of how do I keep this thing going, but I get out more. How can I step away without this whole thing falling apart? And I really did. I mean, I went to everybody that we worked with. I mean, our full-time people that we worked with at different tournaments around the world that would fly in from all over the world to work with us that were trained by us, but they couldn't dedicate all their time and we couldn't afford them all the time, but we used them at different terms. I went openly to all of them. I was like, listen, I would very much like to sell this to all of you. I'd love for you guys as a group to come together. And I talked to all of them and I talked to them in groups and I tried to figure it out and I tried to think of different things and it eventually just didn't work. Like all these guys and girls were great and they were nice and and they were good at what they did and all that sort of stuff, but they weren't business people. They didn't want to have a business. They didn't want to do that. Like and so, it just it became almost like a frustration at the end of like I can't do this the way I want to do this. So the
Mm-hmm.
only choice is I have to rip the Band-Aid off. Like I don't have a choice anymore. Like I wanted to do this,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought would have been this beautiful, which I really do still to this day think it would have been a beautiful thing. Like it would have been really wonderful. It would have been a great opportunity for all of them. They just could have totally dominated and, it just would have been a great thing. And they could have made good money and do what they really wanted to do, which I just didn't want to do anymore. And it just didn't work out. So, I also didn't have enough experience at that point. I didn't know enough to be able to do that. Yeah, I'd say it probably took me a couple of years, but then there was a lot of after that. There was kind of this little nothing feeling for a while till I kind of really got Effluence to be a thing. Like it took a while. It took a really long while because I still my situation may be a little unique, but I still kind of segued out a little bit. Like I was still helping even through the sale, like even through the ending of the transition, I was still kind of a little bit involved. So I wasn't totally out of it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, yeah, it was a weird feeling, but I was driven by this new thing. I was very excited about doing something new because it was new and it was exciting. It was fresh and but I mean, shit, you want to talk about pivots? I mean, we didn't even get out of the gate and we pivoted. I mean, the original Effluence, which I still hope to do someday, is a restaurant hospitality brand. I mean, it's not an entertainment business really at all. I mean, it is. It's because I consider hospitality part of the overall entertainment world, but it wasn't a production company, that's for sure.
Right.
No,
Right.
no thought of that. So we were raring to go. We had a great business plan, a great model, a great idea, and the stock market just crashed. Like we pretty much finished the business plan, and the market crashed like the next day. and everybody was like, "You're not going to raise a dollar. Like it's a great idea. You're not going to raise a dollar. If you were selling water in a desert, you wouldn't sell it right now because just nothing, no chance. So don't try to open up a restaurant, which is already a hard thing to do. And I had to pivot, and that's how Effluence started. Really, like that was like, what am I going to do? And it's on events and then production, and it just grew from there. So it was, yeah, that was, well, that was a punch in the cojones. I'll tell you that. Um, but still, it's still a great idea, I think, and hopefully I mean, I'll do it at some point. I'm sure I'll do it at some point.
To help you decorate your restaurants.
Absolutely, and actually, it's funny. It's really funny. Now you're bringing back all these memories. I mean, one of the things in the design was art, but there was art in there. I mean, obviously, a lot of restaurants have art in it too. But when we were thinking about this in the type of thing we were doing, it just wasn't as commonly done. It was more like you designed the space, and then the way you lit it, at the walls were what the walls were. We didn't have art on the walls. We were in the business plan. We focused on the fact that there was going to be art. From up and coming or unknown artists, focusing on the art, shifting the art out every whatever it was. I can't remember exactly. It was a month or 2 months. Like the whole stuff that you see today, we were talking about, ages ago, and it was a big thing. And our logic was in the marketing aspect. We were like, well, it's a big deal, right? Because every time we switch artists, well, we got to have an event. So we got to invite people to the place. So they're going to, even if they never heard of us, now they're going to come for the artist. So the whole new audience that didn't know who the hell we were are going to be in our place, tasting our food. They'll be back, like, listening to our DJs. Like, so it was, yeah, it was a really good idea.
Honestly, as you're talking about it right now, I'm kind of getting excited about it.
I'm getting hungry thinking about it because the food we were going to do, it's just, I mean, it really is a good idea. And I'm not saying because it's mine. It really is a good idea. But look,
So,
I have enough
as
on
you're
my plate
talking,
right now.
I know you do, but as you're talking about all this, it makes me think about the topic of like the skills that you needed to do, Jay's custom stringing. And you did that, like you were the top in the world when you were doing that. And now you're pivoting. Were there skills that you utilized in particular for that transfer over to every single thing that you do? Like what? So it's not like fully I mean, it's a pivot in business, but you're not pivoting who you are, really. You're
No.
pivoting how you're utilizing your skills. So I'm curious if you can help our listeners understand, like for them themselves, if they want to pivot, like what are the ways that having a set of skills can transfer from one thing to the next?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you are who you are, right? And you learn things along the way, and you hopefully get better. You hopefully grow and evolve. As humans, we should do that for sure. Um, and when I do look back at that, and I think of like, okay, so you know, I'm pretty techie, and I've always been into that stuff, and I've always used computers and technology in all sorts of ways always ahead of the curve. But you can look at, let's say, how meticulous I am about our files and the structure of them and how they have to be organized and what folders are and why there's a folder and a subfolder. Well, that's something I learned, eons ago. And I did it because when we didn't do it that way, somebody couldn't find something, or they didn't know what to do, or they looked up the wrong information or something like that. So the skills of understanding how because organization is organization, right? Like if you're a plumbing factory or you're a deli or you're a doctor's office, I mean, organization is organization. It's really important. How does a process work? How does a flow work? How do you get from here to there? And I'd say as a core thing that I can look at every single thing I've done, no matter what, and that we do today, and people talk about it with us today, about how we engage with our clients, how we really, I know I've heard all these different terms, and I haven't looked up today what the current term is, but like, it's not hand holding in that negative way, but like we're really there. Like we're not just being like, okay, here's the product, here's the video, here's the website. Like we're really looking at every single element of that. That's something that's carried through in everything I did. I mean, when with with JCS, I mean, I knew everything about my clients. I mean, everything. I knew how they felt. I knew their family. I knew if they liked their agent, if they didn't like their agent, the things they didn't like about themselves. I knew them, but I had to know them because I was there for them. I had to make sure that the piece that I was doing to help them, I had to know them. And that heart and soul went into everything that we did. And I think that hasn't changed. And it was going to be the same thing with the restaurant. Like it was the same mentality about the customer and how do we treat the customer? How do we help our team be the best they can be, that they want to be that way? How do we give them the tools and the resources so it's not difficult for them to do their job, even though it's a difficult job, so that the passion and desire and caring that is within, let's say, me as the founder carries through in the work that we do. So it doesn't matter what business we do. It's the same. The businesses are different. And so I think ideally, if you can align with a business that fits you, that's the best. That's the best.
Right.
And not everybody does that, right? Some people have really good businesses. They're very happy with their business, but they're not 100% that person, right? Like they're not that business. They just happen to be good at it, or they happen to like it, or it makes them a lot of money or whatever. So I think that's something that has carried through with everything. For me, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But similar with you. I mean, you have the same, like with your, I mean, we joke about it, how like you are the have some fun today customer service. Like you literally are the person who answers the phone. Like you literally are the person who writes the email, and but you take that seriously. Like you really believe in it. Like if somebody doesn't like your product, if something happens, you really want to know. Like it's not like, okay, here's another one. Like you really want to do. So you're the same with that sort of mentality, I think. Would you say?
Well, yes, definitely. I mean, you have to like go back to like, who I am. I'm an artist.
Right, exactly.
And I'm also a person who's very spiritual and who has a very deep and strong sense of self. For me to take my dad's saying, have some fun today, and to put everything I learned over my lifetime into creating a brand that would share this message, that's a deep endeavor, So like,
Yeah.
you're not going to put out, product that is lesser than. You're going to put out the best quality product you can, and you're going to stand behind it because that's integrity. And that's what this whole brand is based on. I mean, I was just at Broomfield over the past few days. I was wearing my Have Some Fun Today hat. And, I got into conversations, and I'm not out there trying to sell anymore. I've kind of come away from that experience. And like, I want to just be a reminder. I'm not trying to sell people. And so like, it's a very different, mindset. And, I think that the mindset is really just, this is a good thing, and I'm going to back it up with everything I have. And, that shift, it's really about me wanting to be happy and me wanting to be a fulfilled human. It's not about the dollar. It's about feeling like I'm doing something for the world, and I feel good about myself doing it. And that's kind of where I align myself with anything I do artistically and in business.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, do you feel like with what you've done and how you've gone through with your pivots, because you've had a couple really, right? I mean, you've had,
Yeah, I have.
you were designing, and then you did interior design, you did, not housewares. It's not called housewares. What is it called?
I did soft home furnishings.
Soft home furnishings, right? And then, and then have some fun today, so you've had these different things.
But it's all around design.
It's all around design. Did you, it wasn't it was there was no it wasn't an impulsive thing, right? Like there's a lot of thought went into this, I would say. It was intentional. Or do you think it was impulsive for you?
Being in design or
No, 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 switching,
specifically?
pivoting. Any of the pivots that you
Oh,
made.
I think that it felt natural. I think it felt natural. I mean, I expose myself to a lot of stimulus, through travel and reading and visiting, exhibitions. And I get out there and I
Yeah.
see, and I experience. And so when you're doing that, you're seeing the world and you're seeing what's happening in the world. And so it's just my own reaction to having a sensibility of art and design and seeing where trends are. And they were all based on seeing a new trend,
Right.
seeing some opening.
Right.
And that's kind of how everything kind of went. And I think the thing with my dad, I mean, obviously, the whole situation of my dad being sick and then my dad passing away and me being in this weird space of losing my father after a very long, dreadful illness. I was in a raw space emotionally. And I think that this hit me and it just felt right. It's very, very intuitive, really. A lot of it is very intuitive.
Yeah. Which is different than impulsive, right? Like that's kind of where I'm getting at. Like I think everything you've done, there was real intent. Like you heard it, you thought about it, or you had the idea, or someone said something to you, and then it sparked something, and then you maybe not outwardly, but when I see how you process, like I think there was it's very intentional. Little by little, you kind of thought about it a little bit more, a little bit more. Like it's not like I'm gonna switch. You're not like, oh, I'm gonna do this tomorrow. Like you're not like that. Like
Yeah.
that to me is impulse. Impulse is like someone tells you, you know what, you should. Everybody's doing this thing. You're like, holy shit, that's a great idea. I love that. I'm gonna be great at it. I'm gonna make money at it. Great, I'm doing it. That's not what you do. You're like, okay,
No,
got it.
I stay
Okay,
in my lane.
you stay there,
I
and then
know
you
my
pivot.
lane.
Yeah,
I
but
know
but
my
you
lane.
listen. You go outside of you definitely have gone outside of your comfort zone. But I think whenever you know, listening to the stories and stuff that I've been around for, stuff that I've been around for, there's intent to your pivots. Like there's you don't lollygag. You don't like it's time and you're like, no, I'm gonna wait another 6 years. Like when you're ready, you're ready. But I think it's a lot of intent to it. And I think some people do impulsive. And the reason I'm bringing that up is I think some people do impulsive pivots. I think in tech it happens a lot. You know, people raise money or they start to build something and they get it out there and then someone says, "Oh, you should do this," or someone says that. And then they do these pivots. Like they just do these real noticeable pivots and you're like, "Wait, what happened to that thing?" Like, "Oh, no, 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 we're doing it this way now." And it's like, well, they were able to raise money because they pivoted this way or they were, and it's like that to me is an impulsive pivot. That whatever it is, the investor said, well, if you start doing this, then I'll put some more money into it. And they just say, okay, fine. And they just keep going, which is, like, it's not who you are. You wouldn't do that.
No, I mean, underneath everything, I want to feel good in my body and my skin. And I mean, I really do think about it. I think about like when I'm gone, what was my contribution here to my family, to my friends, to my children, to the world at large? I mean, I think about that stuff and I know that my I'm in the lane I'm supposed to be in. Like I know that. And a lot of thought goes into everything I do, but the at the end of the day, I want to feel I want to feel like in a good place holistically. So everything is based on that, really.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. That's part of your personality. I think it's a little. I mean, it's who you are, your DNA, and who you are. It's how you create it. But I think the influence, the positive influence of your family and surroundings of like pride and respect, and you got that from your mom and your dad. Like they taught you like family and how important family is. It's also how you not that you not that you have anything to hide or that, but how you look in the public eye is important. Not only public, like famous public, like people in the neighborhood should know, yeah, they're good people. They have good values. Like that's always it's part of who you are. I mean, your mom is that way. Everybody talks about your mom about this wonderful person she is, about how kind she is, about so nobody's 100% perfect. Your mom's pretty close within reason, but you know what I mean? Like it's very important, like how things are presented. And I think you have that same, it's like ingrained. Like you said, you want to 100 years from now, when they look back at what you did, you want them to be like, yeah, that was really great. What you left behind, what you leave behind for your kids and your grandkids. Out there. I think it's great. I think it's really, really
Yeah,
important.
I mean, I think it just sums up like integrity. I'm just not someone who takes like the easy fast track. I just don't do that. I will take the longer track if I think it's the right track. And
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to work hard. In
No.
fact, I actually enjoy it.
Yeah. No, I
I'm
feel you. Yeah.
I'm definitely not a person who just wants to go from vacation to vacation. I mean, that sounds cool for a lot of people, but I got to tell you, like, I love my life. Like,
Yeah.
I love, I love everything about it, and it's not
That's
easy. I'm not
that's
saying like,
beautiful. That's beautiful.
so like, I'm down, I can't
Yeah.
wait to go back and to finish some commissions and start on my next projects. And I think it's really fun.
Yeah. I think it's fantastic. Couple of just maybe closing questions or thoughts, like when when you're thinking about, or any times you've thought about any of the pivots that you've made. I mean, obviously you knew they were coming, right? Like you know,
Yeah.
when you're that person, you know it's coming. Like it's not there yet. Like at what point do you start like telling people or making it public? How maybe share, so maybe our listeners can learn from your experience. Like, do you wake up one morning and you're like, okay, I'm definitely gonna do this pivot, but it's not ready yet, but it's gonna be in 6 months, and do you start telling people, or do you like don't tell anybody, keep it quiet, wait, then you tell two people, and then you tell, that, I mean, how do you have, from your experience, what's worked and what hasn't worked, and how you've done it?
I mean, for me, like the most public thing obviously was have some fun today because, you know, famous people have worn the product.
100%.
And so it's out there. And when I started getting a sense that I wasn't into designing a new collection every 4 months, like, anyone who was close to me, I would tell them because I'm very transparent. I'm almost too transparent, I'm sure.
Sometimes yes, sometimes
I,
yes.
I, you know, I just am that
Different
person.
topic, different
Yes.
topic, different day.
And there were plenty of times you were like, don't tell the people, you're going to do that. And I'd be like, why not? But I think, good friends would know,
Okay.
but I wasn't like announcing that in an email, but I have done that. Like I did do that finally, maybe 2 years after initially thinking it was going to happen and how long it takes to happen. And then I'm proud of like how I'm navigating this. Like it's with honesty, it's with dignity, it's with grace. And I think it shows other people that you can evolve and you're not stuck in some identity that doesn't serve you anymore. So
Yeah.
I announce it once it's finally in the works and you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, look, I'm much more uh quiet or private or whatever you want to call it than you are about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have to balance the business part of things. So for me, I'm not big on, and again, I think it is different in just the circles that you're in and stuff like that. It's a little different, but I tend to bounce ideas off of people that I respect or that I value their opinion or trust. But I don't announce until like it's time to announce. Like that I'm very cautious about it. And I think, I mean, part of it is you know quite frankly, part of it is like, well, what if it doesn't happen? And I feel like I'm going to look like an idiot, that I said, well, I'm going to do this thing, and it didn't happen. I'm a failure, or I'm an idiot that I thought that I was going to do this. So I kind of don't want to do that. It's not that I'm listen, I've done a lot of things and I fail, and it's okay. And I've had very, very, very low lows, and I've had some pretty cool highs. And so I don't, if it happens, it happens. It's not that, but I just kind of feel like, why? Like, why do that? Like, why would I do that? Like, if I'm sure, then I'm sure and I'm in. But like, if I'm still formulating, I'm like, I don't need to share that with everybody. For me personally, so
That's fair.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. I guess that's how I've done it. So, um, yeah. I mean, look, I would say, I don't know. Do you have any like it? I mean, we can close out with maybe a little bit of thoughts and advice on if someone's kind of on the edge or on, thinking about do they want to make a pivot or not? Like any closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were in someone's shoes that is kind of like feeling a little off with what they're doing or sensing that the market is shifting and like and it's draining, there's so many signs that maybe it's time for a pivot. Maybe really do some deep diving into, your skill set that you're currently using in this one aspect, and what are the other ways you could take that same skill set and adjust it so that it's more relevant or it's filling a need that is out there that needs to be filled. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I would begin.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd say that, from my perspective, if you're really not feeling what you're doing anymore, and obviously if you've done something, I mean, a couple of ways. If you're doing something you're not successful at it, you have to think like, okay, am I meant to do this? I have skills, I have talents. Everybody has some skills, some talent, something. How do I use that in a different way? I mean, that's a point where I think you really should think about it.
Mhm.
Or if you've done it and you've been successful or medium successful, whatever that means, and you're like, I'm really not enjoying this. Like I'm getting up in the morning and I don't really want to do this. I don't see the future, in me doing this. I think that's when it's time to really start thinking about, okay, what can I do? Open your eyes to what's out there. How do you fit into something different? And how do you take the skills that you've learned, the things that you're really good at, and shift them into some new thing that you can be happy with or make more money or whatever that part of your life means financially. I think it's better to do that early than to wait till the whole thing, because if you're really unhappy in your situation, eventually you're gonna destroy it. It will be destroyed. People will feel it. Your staff will feel it. Your team will feel it. Your partners, your investors, your customers, like they'll feel it. They'll feel that you don't want to be doing this, and they'll go elsewhere. And then you'll really lose. But if you can get ahead of it and pivot before you're forced to,
Mhm.
then you can really go to something really wonderful. I mean, you can really have like a better life for yourself, which would be ideal. So I hope that's helpful to everybody out
Great
there.
advice.
Thank
Great
you.
advice, I would
Thank
say.
you very much. Thank you very much. I'll be here. I'll be here on a weekly basis. Um, so feel free to send us any questions or comments or suggestions or thoughts. Thank you again for tuning in. We really, really appreciate it. I know you guys can. I've heard there's other podcasts out there. I don't know why, but so we appreciate that you choose to listen to us or watch us, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great week.
Okay.
Bye.
Have some fun today. Bye.